Hello and welcome to March's GEG Iowa meeting. If this is the first time you have joined us, or if it's been a while, our website can be found at the bottom of the screen, bit.ly/GEG-Iowa, and the GEG and the I are capitalized. The website has an events tab and it has the learn more. If you go to events, the default page will have some information about our next upcoming events. If you are on our website and you want to follow along with today's agenda, plus check out everything that we have covered previously, if you just go to the regular events tab, it will give you some information about the group and the events that we have. And then there's the other one, which is the schedule. But on here, on events, there is an option that says preview the agenda. So if you click on the agenda, it will take you to our agenda. So the agenda is a running document. It actually has all of our agendas from the last 2 years, but it is broken down by school year. So this school year, at the very top, there is a clickable table of contents. And that table of contents has each month's agenda, plus it has just the basics at the top. So like, say you want to learn more about how you can connect with us, that section has different links that you can check out. Let's just dive right into learning a little more about me, and then we will talk about this month's topic. So hi, my name is Whitney Bacon. I taught for 7.5 years, classroom teacher, and I have now been in my current position for 4 years. So I am at like 11.5 years of teaching. And in my current role, I am an instructional designer for our entire staff, but I largely work with our faculty. And most of our faculty are teachers of the visually impaired or orientation and mobility specialists. My job is specifically to design training content and to just train our teachers in anything under the sun with educational technology. So a lot of the times they hear about a platform that one of the general ed teachers is using, and it is not accessible. So then they will have me kind of look into alternatives. Or if there's a tool that they want to learn more about, I can give them like demos and teach them how to use the tools. So in my role as an instructional designer for the Iowa Educational Services for the blind and visually impaired, I have lots and lots of time to explore tools. And so that is where I learn a lot of the tools that I mention here today. So thank you guys for joining me today. Generally, how this works is I will kind of give you the content that I am focused on today, and then I always end the day with a bonus. Today we're talking about Google Sheet power features, so really cool, more advanced features, make your life a lot easier. So let's take a look at my top 10 Google Sheets power features. This meeting is the third and possibly final meeting about Google Sheets. I have done some other ones before this. So if you look at January's meeting, I talked about my top 10 hidden gems of Google Sheets. These were a lot simpler features that I recommend that you use. It'll make your life a lot easier. How today's features are a little different is they are a little more complicated, and they're not necessarily like need to know, but they are, if you are already kind of comfortable with Google Sheets or you're wanting to get better at Google Sheets, they are great recommendations. And then the month before that, in December, I talked about my favorite Google Sheet keyboard shortcuts. So I gave, I think, 7 of them. I don't know why the numbers are now messed up, but neither here, there, nor there. Alrighty, so number 1. And these, like, they're not necessarily ranked in, like, good or bad or stuff like that. But they are ranked, like, they do get more difficult as you go down the list. So this first one is going to be very easy. Okay, so I have copied over a lot of data from a real spreadsheet, but I have changed all of the names and removed anything that I think is needs to be considered private. So our first tip, we're looking at Autofit. So what Autofit is, B, which is name, if I use the Autofit feature, it is going to expand it to the length of the longest name in this column. So as you can see with my example, there are some that are off screen, like Isabella, I'm guessing Rodriguez. This one is something Taylor. So Autofit, what you do is that you hover in between 2 columns or 2 rows that you want to use the Autofit feature, and you're going to double click when the icon appears. There are a couple different icons that will appear when you attempt to do this. The actual, like, palm hand is the freeze. So if I grab and drag, that will freeze up to wherever I'm going. Meaning if I freeze the name and then I go over to the right, yeah, that is a feature that I talked about last time. Highly recommend that you use it. But right now I'm trying to show you guys a different feature. So the Autofit is if I hover over the margin between 2 columns or 2 rows, and I wait for it to go from a hand to a double-sided arrow. So right now I'm hovering. So if I grab those 2 icons, I could manually resize it, but you do not need to do that. There is this Autofit feature that if you just instead, once this icon becomes active, once it appears, just double click and it will automatically resize whatever column it is, whatever row it is, based on the content that is in that corresponding row or column. If I do this with A, again, I'm going to hover between A and B, and then I'm going to double click when that double-sided arrow pops up. Then it automatically expands to this length. So it perfectly fits the column. There are some of them that I want you to be wary of. So because this Autofit feature will always expand whatever the width is or whatever the height is based on the like it looks at the entire column. And so if anything in that column has a really, really long string of letters and all that stuff, and I try to do this Autofit option, so let me show you with this example. And so the column right now that I am highlighting has a question of, are you interested in attending a workshop focused on Google Calendar? If I were to use this Autofit feature on this column, you hover in between whichever column you are wanting to expand, and then you double click. So if I were to do this, because this question is so long, it's actually going to expand to this length, which I don't actually want that, but I'm going to show you guys. Yeah. So it's like, I don't actually want the column to be this width. Instead, I'm going to go backwards. Instead, I'm actually going to do a step first, and I will do like the wrap option. And then I'm just going to assign the height that I want because I don't want it very high. And then now, if I double click, it is only looking at everything else in that column. So like, say, to get a better example here, let me go. I will cut off part of some of these some of the cells. So like the maybe is now being cut off. Now if I hover in between the column C and column D and double click, it will, yeah, it expands to just barely the width that you need for that column. So that is called Autofit, and it works for both columns and for rows. How about for this column, this guy, my question is, at this time, which of the following apps do you regularly use on a mobile device? I'm going to just manually make it the size I want. And then I am going to do text wrapping. And then let's say I want to take like multiple rows and say they were super small. For each one of those, if I highlight them and then I again hover in between any of those rows, if I now double click, it is going to automatically do the auto fit. So there you go. But yeah, auto fit. So hover in between two columns or two rows and double click when the double-sided arrow pops up. So that is auto fit. Let's look at another very simple one. Every single person should be using this on pretty much any editor that you use, whether like this is available in Excel, in Google Sheets, in Word, in all of that stuff. So what that does, say we have, let's expand. Oh, I did not want to do that. We're gonna do, say I have some cells that are a different font, most likely because I copied them in. Maybe they're much larger. Maybe they have a weird background color. Or how about I will do something really obnoxious. So how about they've got that. So the paint format button is, the purpose of it is so that you can very quickly copy the formatting of one location, one cell, or however many cells, and then use that format and apply it to another place. So I want to copy the format of the cell that I currently have selected, which it just says maybe, and it is like Calibre 13. And so I'm going to click the paint format, and then I'm actually going to click and select all three of those options. So they are now in the same format. If you double click, if that's still an option, it does not appear to be an option anymore. But that is paint format. It is extremely helpful as the data continues to build, as there is more and more data. Again, this is where I should have a different example for you guys. Let me see if I have a different version of this spreadsheet open in another tab. It may be nice to see it. Oh, here we go. I'm going to copy this guy. Okay. Oh, that's not gonna work, maybe? Hold on, let's see. I've got an idea. We're gonna rename this. And we're gonna get rid of this. Oh, except that's still gonna be messed up. That's still gonna be messed up. Okay, that's fine. I can just show you guys this. Because this part, I don't think has anything that needs to be redacted. This is actually some of the data that I collect, which is a later point I will be talking about. But this is linked to specifically the workshop that I taught earlier today for work, where I try to collect information on my staff feedback on what they want to learn. And what I'm actually showing you here is that I was going to use the paint format to reformat some of this. So say I actually go to add a new row, and as you can already tell, some of the format's already messed up. So if I actually want to reformat this, and I think it's like that because I think in the background I actually have that going on. So what I might do is I am going to, let's say, test. And of course that did not work because there we go. It formatted to something else. So I'm going to select one of these other cells. Then I'm going to do paint format. And there we go. Let's see if this works. It's not working. Check out the paint format. I mean, it's worth checking out. It just really quickly allows you to change the formatting very quickly. So that is paint format. Our next one is formula bar pasting. Okay, so actually I've kind of shown you guys this with some of the examples that I have been doing today. So a lot of times when people paste things into cells, let's go backwards. We're going to actually delete this. Say I go to copy something and how about I will just copy it from my website. Say I want to copy this entire line. And that may not be a good example because I actually want, I'm going to go to my schedule because I want something that is multiple columns. Say I want to copy this entire spreadsheet, like manually copy it. I am going to open a new tab. If I, from that first cell, in the cell, if I do paste, it, as you can tell, it pasted kind of strangely. And this is something with spreadsheets. I don't know exactly why sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Instead, if you select the cell and then in the actual formula bar, which is up above, if you then copy, that's actually going to copy it all into one cell, which is still not what I was wanting to do. But this at least copies it all in one like default font. So that is not a good example though. Let me try to think of when would it make sense to do that. I could swear I had a good example for you guys. I'm sorry, it has been a long day. I feel like I say that every time. But let's see, what could I copy? Oh, I know what I could show you guys. The times where this is most helpful is say I go and I actually have like multiple rows of stuff copied. So I will actually copy this. Because this is 2 paragraphs, and say I want to actually paste it right here in this current cell, if I paste this right here, it is going to overwrite the row underneath it. Let me show you. So yeah, it actually overwrote, so I can go back and forth. So we'll go back once. And let's zoom in so you guys can kind of see. So right here is where I'm pasting it. And then it actually overwrites these 3 cells, which is not what I want to do. So not what I wanted to do. Instead, say I actually want to paste it in this exact cell. And if I actually use the formula bar itself and do Control V, then everything I just copied is going to be pasted in just that cell, which is best if you are trying to not overwrite anything. Because I often will accidentally lose stuff in all my rows and rows upon rows of data if I am trying to copy and paste something elsewhere, because generally speaking, people use a lot of line breaks and new paragraph and stuff like that. And so if just very often I try to remind myself, there are some times where I should actually be using the formula bar for pasting instead of straight up typing it, or instead of just pasting it into the cell. So that is the formula bar pasting. Our next one is line breaks. So kind of how I just mentioned, that when you are dealing with spreadsheets, it's a lot of rows. You may get, like, say you're getting, you are manually adding data. So say I'm like going to add a row before this one, and I'm, putting a, let's come up with, we'll say Chelsea Weber, and then we'll just say today's date, and I don't know, we'll say 3:25 a.m., which that should, oh, it did not actually. I don't want it to actually show a.m. Okay, well, it's going to do that for now. And then say we go to, here we go. So say I'm writing in information, and I'm like putting in, okay, this staff member, okay, I'll say, again, I do like notes about this sometimes of like reach out, oh my gosh, reach out to the staff member later. And then if I were to press enter, it saves the information in the cell, but then it goes to the cell below it. Instead, if I actually want to still keep writing in this cell and instead just be on a new line, then if I hold control while I press enter, it will actually let me start writing on a new line. So, like say I had another note, I don't know what other note, we'll just say this is a sample note, and then I can keep doing it. So like right now, if I press enter, it's going to leave the cell. If I instead do control enter, then I can continue to have a new line. Okay, this is a third line. Some people have asked me, it's like, well, can't I just kind of like, it will, if I have the wrap situation, it will technically end up on a new line. The thing with this is what I'm talking about is that this is still actually keeping them truly separated versus say instead of doing this, I will in another column, I will show you guys the other example. So I'm going to write the same thing. So reach out to this staff member later. This is a sample note. And I'm not putting those enters in. This is, we'll say not a third line. And then I can wrap the text. So it doesn't look that much different, and it probably doesn't always, like oftentimes this format is fine for me. It's when I'm doing true notes that I like using this option. I can show you guys an example of where I do it. I keep a library of tools that I have tested and whatnot. And so when I'm doing notes about those tools, I try to, when I remember to, let me see if I have some examples of when I have used those line breaks. Maybe it does not look like I have as much done that. I should. How about like for this example, this is about a video editing software that I have tested before. Maybe I want this first part to be on the first line, and then this third sentence, I'm going to do control enter. So that second part is on a second line. Maybe I want this part to be on its own line, or how about maybe I want all of these sentences to be on their own line. So not a huge deal, but it just helps you organize things a little differently. I heard a doggo bark, so I am going to pause real quick to go let the dogs in. I will be back here in a moment. we are back, and I say we because doggies need attention. Here's one of them. Well, they're both right here. Say hello. This is Curie. The other one is probably kind of hard to see because he is black. Oh, there he is. Anywho, okay, so we can continue on. And then the doggies are hopefully going to be behaved, okay? I can pet you guys. Okay, dokie. So let's look at our fifth tip. And we have a doggy with us. You want to join us? Okay. So we're going to be talking about filters now. Okay. So if you guys have lots of data, you should be using filters. The whole point of spreadsheets is to have lots of data and to quickly look through them and filter out a lot of the data that is not important. Right, baby girl? Yeah. Here, how about you sit right there? Oh, my baby girl. You could be internet famous. Okay. So let's take a look. How about for this calendar? For this column, I am going to create a filter and then I'm going to tell it to filter out certain things of people's responses. So before I do that, I am going to freeze some columns and maybe hide some columns so you guys can see the one I'm looking at. Here, we'll do it with this one. So right now, this is customizing your layout. I tried to collect how many staff want me to talk about this topic. And so I am going to highlight the entire column. And then from Google Sheets, there is an option. It is in data. And then create a filter. If you create the filter, if it works. Oh, it's because I don't know why I didn't delete. Hold on, we're going to delete the first row. Okay, we're deleting the first row. Doggy, leave the kitty's food alone. Okay, and then let's see, data, create a filter. Okay, so we've got a filter for the entire row. When you create a filter, it will always, the actual like filter header will always be the very first row that is highlighted. And it just really depends. Like where I had that issue a second ago was because my header was not actually row 1. I could have just highlighted the rows that I needed. But let's take a look at what we've got. So I am going to filter this question. And generally when I'm working with filters, I will usually in the filter option, I will generally clear it so that I'm clearing everything away and then I tell it the things that I want. So right now I only want to look at how many very interesteds did I get for this question. So I'm clicking that. So this will be the only option that comes up. And when you filter something, it will tell you in the bottom left of how many rows are displayed, which this is also showing my original data had like thousands or hundreds of empty rows. Let me show you guys what I meant. So honestly, I probably should have gotten rid of, those are all different questions. Okay. There we go. Now we only have the rows of actual people who responded. So I'm going to do clear, and then I want to count. I'm actually going to count the varies and the somewhat. So there are 16 very and somewhat interested people for that topic, which this topic was customizing the layout. It's a very long question. And honestly, I can just, for demoing purposes, we'll just rename the question. And so yeah, I only wanted to look at very interested. Pretty much every time that you're messing with the filter, if you're editing the filter, changing the filter, you just click on the filter option and then you just change what you want with that filter. Generally speaking, I would recommend, if you're going to use filters, like in this demo example, I just created a filter for this column. And when I am filtering this, so let's look at not interested. It doesn't like miss, like it is looking at the entire row, if that makes sense. It's not like reordering stuff. You're not going to have data that is all of a sudden mixed up. Generally, where data gets mixed up is because people are copying and pasting on top of other things. So I'm going to actually add back all of the data. I'm going to unfilter it. And so then I'm actually going to remove this filter, because generally when you are dealing with filters, I would actually recommend that you create a filter on all of the data. So a tip that I showed last time in January was the select all button, which is either you can do Control A, or in between the very first column and the very first row is the select all button. I wish it just said select all. But I'm going to select it all. And like almost every single time, anytime I make a filter, I almost always grab the entire data. Just because I know there is going to be stuff that comes up later. There's going to be more columns. There's going to be people deleting rows and stuff like that. And so I just cover my bases by adding a filter on the whole thing. And then you can also layer filters on top of things. So say I want to look at this question. This question was about how confident do you feel currently with Google Calendar? So I'm actually, again, just going to change the name since this is just the demo. So Google Calendar confidence level. Okay, so that is what this question is collecting. I'm going to filter this. Say I want to focus on people that gave, I don't want to look at anything below 3. So right now it is filtering. There are 9 people who said they are either 4 or 5 level for Google Calendar. And then the nice thing with filters is that you can layer them on top. So say I am, or actually here, let's go back. I got a better example for you guys. Select, okay. So say I want to I'm going to filter this first column, which was actually just asking them, are you interested in this topic? So everybody said, where is my thingy-majiggy? Oh yeah, I'm so zoomed in. So I want to just look at people who said maybe and yes, because the no's, I'm like, oh yeah, they're not interested. And then while I have everybody who is filtered for yes and maybe, then maybe I want to, on top of that, layer other ones. So say I want to find out how many people, let's look at one of the other topics. Here, this is actually one of the other ones I did today. Enabling desktop notifications. Okie dokie. Okay, so I am going to, based on everybody that said they were either interested or maybe interested in a Google Calendar workshop, I am filtering this to see how many people said they were somewhat and very interested. And of everybody, there is 12. And the 55 is not actually true. I also have a lot of other people in here that I have, that anytime they RSVP, I add their name. But, so we are looking at somewhat and very interested. So that is kind of how filtering works. Big thing I always recommend for people when filtering is to always try to remember to revert it back to what you were doing. A lot of times I will come back to this later and people will be like, oh, there's rows missing. Rows are missing because the data is probably still filtered. So that is filters. We're already down to 8 minutes left. So we can look at our next tip, which is actually very similar to this. This is filter views. So if you are working on a spreadsheet that you collaborate with others, I don't even bother generally doing filters, because filters affect everybody's current view when they're looking at the document. Filter views are specific to whoever is opening that filter view. So say I share this document with someone and we're going to remove this filter, and then I'm going to actually create a filter view. And so say I am looking at Let's do, we'll get rid of, sorry, no, we'll get rid of the nose. Okay, and so right now I have created a filter view, and this, it's temporary, but if I save this, and like this filter view is, anytime that I open this filter view, it will always automatically filter and only show me the data that says yes and maybe for this question. Where this is useful, and I probably should have taken the big document that I've been messing with, but like when collecting like student data, I have used this for like when the in my job there are 9 AEAs that our staff are working through, and so I actually have a filter view for each AEA, and so I don't have to really tell them anything about it. I will just send them the link, because each filter view that you create creates a unique URL, and that URL, if you open the URL, it will take you directly to it. I wonder if I have anything like that in my, I do not have anything in here. Okay, I will show you guys with an example of my tool spreadsheet that I mentioned. I can't do it because of that. Well, that's annoying. Here, let's do it with, I'm gonna make a copy of this, and then I'm actually gonna get rid of the table. The table is messing it up. Okay, and then we're going to delete this top line, and then, okay, I think now it should let me create filter views. There we go. Okay, so I want to look at this entire spreadsheet that I made, and I'm going to create a filter view for the free options, because I have a column that is cost. And so actually I'm going to do one for free to educators. So everything that I have tagged as free to educators is not updated, but it is showing me 15 different rows that I have identified as free for educators. And then I'm going to then save this view, and then let's call this, we'll just say free to educators tools. So then that is a actual filter view, and to show you guys kind of where it's convenient, I will make another one or two. How about let's do another filter view where I am going to do this. We're going to do free for students. Let's do free to K-12. Free to K-12. Okay. So then I have 7 rows that are free to K-12. Okay, and then I'm gonna make one more filter view. How about, I also have, like, I've assigned categories, so I am going to do a filter view, and then let's say that I want to look at math. So I probably need to actually highlight all of these that have math in them. Okay. And I'm going to save this view. I'm going to call this math. So for the purposes of what I'm doing here, now I've saved all 3 of those, and I can then access them in that same menu. So they are in data, and then since I've created them now, they are now listed under change view. So let me zoom in for you guys. Okay, so we've got data. And then I want to look at this entire spreadsheet, but I only want to look at the ones that I have tagged as free to educators. So there we go. I could also modify this, and any modifications I make. So say I'm looking for ones that are free to educators, and I have said that they are accessible. That's what the A11Y is. So of the stuff, this spreadsheet is very outdated, but I have at least marked 2 free for educators tools as accessible. And I could, like, if I left it at that and I closed this page, let me actually, here, let me reopen it in another tab. Because it's a filter view, The only person that is seeing that is me, if I choose to go to that filter. So yeah, anytime I'm working on a spreadsheet with other people and I need to mess with specific data without messing up everybody else's view, I will literally just create a filter view, do whatever I do with that filter view, and then I will either save it or just close it, if it's just a temporary one. So, and I know we're almost out of time. And the features that I have are, I think they are of great interest to people, so I can go over a little. Let's talk about my next power option, which is called data validation. A little more complicated, but it's going to be in data again. Or no, actually, data validation is in, I think I'm too zoomed in right now. Okay, yeah, data is under data. So data validation is really good for like creating drop downs, for creating like if you want to do checkboxes and stuff like that. In fact, there is a column here that is a checkbox. And so this attendance column, I actually want to create a checkbox. And so I'm going to do data validation. And then, or no, data validation is not the right option. That is for something else. Actually, hold on. We want to look at, let's actually just do it with some of these columns that we have already been mentioning. Yeah, let's do it with customizing your layout. So I'm going to do data and data validation, and then I'm going to give them 3 options, 3 drop downs, and then I could also color code them. So say for not interested, I actually set that to red, and I actually do this in my actual work day. And then I'm setting the very interested to greens, the somewhat interested to yellow, and the not interested to red. In this instance, they are not allowed to select more than one of these, but I am going to select the advanced option one. For this question in particular, I like using the plain text option, because then this is just automatically color coding everything in this column. And in fact, we can do more than just this column. How about we did I actually just delete those? I did. Oops. Okay. We are going to actually highlight all of these columns, and we're going to do data validation so that all of these can be color coded like that. So we're going to do data validation, and then add rule, and then we are going to do, oh my goodness, I don't want all the headers. Oh, I probably should have done E2 through that. Okay, and then we're going to do red, white, and green. And then we're going to do apply to all. And I meant to switch this to plain text. So there we go. That made my screen a lot easier to read. I'm going to zoom out just a tad for you guys. I know it's already 8 o'clock. I'll just keep going because this originally used to be till 8:30, but I just want to show you guys the last couple things. So data validation it's mainly for creating multiple options, but it is really nice for making your life easier. If you guys have a spreadsheet that you are working on with multiple people, data validation is great if you want to prevent the other people from writing stuff that they shouldn't in the document. For instance, there is a form that our staff fill out, and then like they have to report how many students they worked with this week and how many schools. And unfortunately, sometimes people will also write little notes in those, and it's like, well, the whole point is so that we can automatically calculate all those numbers. And so I have set it in the spreadsheet. I have set some data validation that it will only allow them to write the number. So data validation just like kind of does additional, like you can do some different steps and stuff. And It would be also really useful to have data validation on this column where I have them list out all the different tools that they use. So we're going to do this. And then we're going to do, like, we have Google Calendar, Gmail, Google Keep. And the reason why those can be helpful is that it makes it a little easier when you're calculating this stuff. Google Calendar, Google Keep. Which ones am I missing? Google Sheets. Oh, reach out to the staff member. Oh, I must have done that. And then, okay, let's do. Okay. Okay. So, like, say they were actually filling this out live. These options, they would only be able to select the things that are in here, and with data validation in this example, allow multiple selections would be great, because say I want to say for this question, I would say, oh yeah, I want to learn more about Gmail and Google Keep and Google Sheets. Granted, this exact example people filled out in the form, but how I organize the actual data, which I could maybe show you guys the real stuff if I do not show names here. 1 second. 1 second, and I know we're out of time, so thank you guys for joining me. Okay, I don't have it open. Here, I will hide the columns. Okay, yeah, here is the actual survey and what it actually looks like. I have hidden the columns that I don't need you guys to know. But yeah, so I have, this is actually where these numbers, this is actually the next tip that I was going to mention, which is conditional formatting. What I did is that I selected this column, F, and then conditional formatting is a format. So it's actually going to be in format, conditional formatting. And then this is already on here. But yeah, so it has this entire column. I told it to take everybody, the number that they included, and then rank it from, to create a gradient scale from 0 to 5. And then I told it what color scheme to do. So I told it to do red, to do blue. I think I have another similar one like that. Oh yeah, I have another one right here. It's the same color scheme. I also have, I think this one, the keep me subscribed, that's just data validation. I just did, I think it's actually in here's data validation. Yeah, in the options here, I just had it either keep me subscribed, which is in green, or if they chose unsubscribe me please, that's in red. This one is also data validation, so I just had it, I gave them their options, and like they don't actually see this, but this is for my own records, because then I can use this data and I can count how many people actually want me to send their recording. Who of those people, because those people who just say yes, I just automatically send it. If someone says it depends on the topic, I look at the rest of their response to see, should I send you this recording? And then I also have asked them whether they want me to keep them subscribed to my newsletter, and then I leave like a little note to myself. So yeah, that is conditional formatting. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with conditional formatting. Another example I can show you of my conditional formatting. Do I still have it open? Is the actual schedule itself. So this spreadsheet actually has some conditional formatting that it tells it after the date is no longer the date, then it grays it out, and then it will automatically show the next date in green. So that's on this entire spreadsheet. And in format, conditional formatting, I have it set, and I don't know code. This was a custom formula I did, and I just asked AI to help me write what custom formula do I need so that it highlights the entire row of a spreadsheet when it is either today or like the next event. I want that to highlight in a certain color. And then all of the old ones, I have everything before today. I have a custom formula to do that. This one is way more complicated. The custom formulas are, but you guys can play around with conditional formatting and you can do it at a very easy start. So like if I were to do, say I want all yeses to highlight in green. So I'm actually going to select all of my data. I'm going to do I'm going to do format and conditional formatting. And then this menu opens, and then I'm going to I'm going to switch the format cells if I'm going to say the text is exactly, and then I'm going to say if it says yes, then I want it to highlight in this color. I want it to look like this color though. Let's go with this color. Okay. And then I want it to be the same color. Okay. So all of the yeses in this document, that's still not quite right, but that's okay. So all of the yeses in any of the columns are now going to be, you can see this one is also yes, because this is conditional formatting. It's saying I am looking at your data and I'm going to do this based on your data. Now for the maybes, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do text is exactly maybe. I like the maybes to be, I usually do yellow. Let's just copy the color here. Okay, that works for me. Come on. We're gonna copy this color. Maybe. Okay, there we go. Okay. And then the nose I would highlight and do red. So that's conditional formatting. Okay. I think it's already 8:10. I think that maybe we'll kind of talk about these a little more in the future. But I can just really quickly talk about the last two. The protect range and sheet just is really great when you are collaborating with multiple people and you want to not allow people to change certain columns or certain rows. I will do this a lot if I am using the last tip, which is formulas. But yeah, so say for certain parts of the spreadsheet, if the person edits it, it's going to break other stuff. And so I will often protect that. You can protect the entire sheet and it can give people a warning when they attempt to edit, and then they can disregard that warning, or you can completely prevent them from editing. There are different options with that. And as long as the other person is not the owner of the file, you can prevent them from editing it. If they are the owner, then you can just send them a reminder. You can set the notification to that. So it's like, say I want to protect this entire sheet. I'd write a thing saying, this sheet is restricted due to, I don't know, maybe say to prevent, I don't know, to prevent, it's been a very long day. What are they going with? To prevent errors in synchronization. I don't know. Little tip, there are common like notes that I use for a lot of spreadsheets like this, and I just save them in my note-taking app. And so then I just straight up go and copy it oftentimes. So I'd set permissions, and then I'm going to say restrict who can edit, only me. And and that is the protect one. And then the last one I had, it really opens up lots of things, but the formulas I use a lot, especially with the data collection. There's the formulas, it is a huge, like, you could spend years upon years. I still don't know a lot of formulas. I have to ask AI to help me do certain things. I'll say I want to write a formula that does this in this cell, but I can show you guys some examples with my most recent spreadsheet that I collected data from staff. So there is, when I am like trying to figure out when I should host a workshop, I collect the data from our staff, and then I use formulas to count how many people said this, said that, said this. So with this example, I had 4 people that said they had availability in early afternoon. This is not as ideal as I would love to have people collect, but that's fine. Or when I am trying to figure out what topics to actually cover in my workshops, I will have my formula. The formula is up here at the top. This says count if. And so, like, for instance, I wanted to figure out how many people said they were very interested in learning about layout customization, how many people said they were somewhat interested, and how many said no. And so I did that with every single like topic, and I do this every time that I am trying to figure out what workshops I am going to cover. And so then I can do a very quick browse, and that is how I determine what to cover. So for example, layout customization, there was 6 staff members who said they were very interested. There was 10 that said they were somewhat interested. So I chose that as one of our main topics. Desktop notifications, I had, again, lots of people that said they were somewhat interested, and a decent amount of people who said they're very interested. And then the Zoom one was also extremely popular. This one was one where I have formulas for each thing. So I have it check, and I can explain some of these, but it's like essentially this formula is, it's counting how many people in this spreadsheet selected Google Calendar, and it's more complicated than you need to know about, but just kind of want people to know how amazing formulas are. I use them in so many spreadsheets in so many different contexts. I have a real simple one where I will count the number of people. Do I have it in this copy? I hope so. I don't think I do. Darn it, I thought I did. Oh yeah, okay. I have a formula that is counting the number of people that submitted a response. I've also, I didn't really want to show you guys the real people names, but that's okay. And then I also have like it calculating when people RSVP. I try to keep track of that as well. So I think at the bottom of these columns, at least this first one, I have formulas that are calculating how many people are marked as accepted, tentative, declined, and then total, because I like having that breakdown for me. Then I counted how many people, because this column is a check mark is under, I think check mark is just under, I think it's under data. No, it's under insert. It's with Google Sheets, there's just a lot of really great features. Like I literally use Google Sheets every day of my life, for personal and for work. And so those are my top 10. I am already 16 minutes over, but in the interest of always leaving people with a fun little thing at the end, the bonus website that I was going to share today, and my bonus ones are always like either something really cool, just a random website I found out about, still something educational, or sometimes it's just really cool, and you might be interested. So the one that I recently found is called Walk My Doggo. It is an open source website that some random guy built and put on Reddit. It's always going to be free. He's like, you can buy me a coffee. So I think it's Venmo or whatever's on there. But I have started using this over the last like month, because I give my doggos a W many times a day. And so I, on my phone, have this saved, and it's got it saved to like the location that I'm at. So say we put in our, and I'm going to put this in dark mode because I hate light mode. Sorry if you guys don't. Okay, so then let's do that. Okay, and so then every day, if you save this website, it will give you just a basic, information about what the temperatures are, and then we'll tell you what is the best time of the day to take your doggos. And since this is just some random dude on Reddit that is making this publicly available, he is taking recommendations. I actually did recommend to him because he has like UV, and I go on W's so often. I'm saying W's because if I said the real word, they would, freak out. But I go on W's, like I'll do one on lunch. I'll try to do one before work in the morning and stuff like that. But the big one is UV, and I am a very Nordic, and so I burn real easy. And he does have UV on here, and I had asked him, it's like, hey, can you actually customize this so you tell us what UV? Because he has like low, medium, or high. So this one's moderate. And so I just asked him, what does moderate mean? Like, where are you pulling this data from? Should I be putting on sunscreen if I'm going to be out there for more than 20 minutes? So yeah, that is Walk My Doggo. I actually said the word that time. And I really like it. I saved it to my personal phone, and I use it on a daily basis. It's really nice because another recommendation I've made to him is to have like the different allergies on there, because I also have seasonal allergies. He does have like air quality, so I think it does get included in that. But again, he's currently working on like developing this so you can get more information about like what does this collect kind of thing, or what does good air mean? Is that just talking about like there's no wildfires, or is that also talking about the things that I was mentioning? So thank you guys for being here today. I went well over, but Google Sheets is I would probably say hands down the most used tool that I use. I am a spreadsheet freak. I love spreadsheets. I love data. If I could do one thing every day, all day, it's spreadsheets. I just, if I could find some games that are I'm going off the diving board. Anyway, I need to end it and go actually do this the doggos. Even though it's colder than heck. But I will see you guys next time. I know that there was no comments left this time. So beyond that, our next meeting is going to be May 20th. I think I am going to officially move on from a Google Sheets because I've been doing Google Sheets with this group since December. And there are a lot of other tools that I want to introduce to the group and all of that. So I will see you guys in May. If there are any topics that you guys would love to see me explore, or there's just tools that you've heard of that you think the group would be interested in, that is kind of what I want this group to be, just sharing resources. We try to do free ones. This is a Google group, so like they try to emphasize the Google ones, but I personally am not like tied to Google. I'm not paid by Google or anything, so I love things that are free. And first and foremost, however, you have to keep you have to understand that if something is free, you are the product. So they have access to your data if you are using their services for free. But yeah, so let me know what might be fun to explore. Our last event for 25-26 is going to be in May. I do a summer one, but that's kind of like when I transition it over to next school year. I will have a new agenda and stuff. It's going to still be on the same sheet, but or document, but I will add a new tab, because yeah, you can look at last year's tools that I mentioned in the previous years. So thanks again, and I hope to see you guys in May. Alrighty. Bye-bye now.